We begin tonight with the breaking news on the war in Iran, the war widening tonight. The Pentagon saying we're just getting started and striking deeper into Iran. And tonight, a U.S. submarine sinking an Iranian warship. Tonight, the Pentagon releasing extraordinary images showing a U.S. fast attack submarine.
Picture the most congested highway on Earth, but instead of asphalt, it's made of water. We're in the Strait of Hormuz, a 21-mile-wide bottleneck under a brutal sun where one wrong move could literally crash the global economy. On the surface, it's absolute sensory overload. You've got the smell of raw crude oil, the blistering heat, and the constant rhythmic thrum of massive engines. But 300 feet below all that chaos, it is dead silent, cold, and incredibly dangerous. Moving through that darkness is an 18,000-ton ghost. This is $2 billion of American engineering, a U.S. Navy Ohio-class submarine, gliding through the depths with the grace of a phantom. The crew doesn't see the waves or the sky. They see the world through cascading waterfalls of neon green sonar data. To them, the ocean isn't a place. It's a soundscape. Suddenly, that soundscape changes. A high-pitched mechanical whirring cuts through the background noise. It's the distinct acoustic fingerprint of an Iranian IRGC fast attack boat, zigzagging at 40 knots in a way that screams aggressive intent. On the surface, the Iranian crew feels like the kings of the Gulf. They've got their radar, their missiles, and their mosquito fleet ready to swarm anything that moves. They think they're the hunters. What they don't realize is that they've been locked in a digital crosshair for the last 20 minutes. The American sub isn't just watching, it's waiting. And when a strike comes from the deep, there is no warning, no defense, and absolutely nowhere to run. To understand why the Iranian Navy is currently staring down a tactical nightmare, you have to look at how the silent service evolved. For decades, the U.S. Navy projected its power with aircraft carriers, giant floating symbols of "Don't mess with us." But in the shallow, cluttered waters of the Persian Gulf, a carrier is a massive target. Iran knew this, so they spent 40 years building a guerrilla navy. Thousands of small, fast boats designed to swarm a billion-dollar destroyer like a cloud of angry hornets. After a famous war game in 2002 suggested these swarm tactics could actually sink a U.S. fleet, the Pentagon didn't panic. They just changed the game. If the surface was getting too crowded, they'd move the fight to where the enemy is blind. The Navy took 4 of its massive Ohio-class nuclear subs, stripped out the nukes, and turned them into guided missile trucks packed with 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles. These monsters are covered in thousands of sound-dampening rubber tiles and mounted on giant vibration-absorbing rafts. They are literally quieter than the ocean itself. While Iran pours billions into coastal radar and missiles, radar can't see through salt water. A smart sub-captain can hide under thermoclines, layers of water with different temperatures that bounce sound away. It makes them invisible. By the time an enemy hears the click of a torpedo tube opening, the math of survival has already hit 0. A modern submarine strike isn't like the movies, it's a clinical, high-tech execution. Picture an Iranian Boghammer boat harassing a commercial tanker in international waters. The commander is playing a game of chicken for his own propaganda cameras, feeling untouchable because the nearest U.S. destroyer is 50 miles away. But 5 miles to his east, the USS Florida is hovering at launch depth. In the control room, it's eerily calm. No one is shouting. The fire control system is crunching thousands of data points, water currents, salinity, even the rotation of the Earth. The command to fire is a whisper. A burst of high-pressure air shoots a Mark 48 AD-cap torpedo into the blue. It doesn't scream like a rocket, it hums. It trails a thin fiber optic wire, allowing the crew to steer it in real time like a lethal video game. Even if the Iranian boat tries to drop decoys, the human operators can manually override the torpedo's brain and stay locked on. The torpedo is halfway home when things get messy. The lead sonar tech reports a transient. The display suddenly shows 3 high-speed signatures closing in from the Iranian coast. Incoming torpedoes. The Iranians might not have seen the sub on radar, but their coastal sensors heard that launch click. The hunter is now the hunted. The USS Florida is trapped in shallow water with 3 threats closing the distance. If the captain breaks stealth to dodge, he snaps the control wire and his own torpedo misses. If he stays on course, he risks his entire crew. The acoustic lines on the screen are starting to overlap. The captain holds his nerve. Steady as she goes. Then, just as suddenly, the threats vanish. They weren't torpedoes at all. They were sophisticated acoustic decoys, a bluff designed to scare the ghost into showing its face. The Iranians were fishing in the dark, but the Navy's acoustic library spotted the fake before the trap could spring. While the Iranians played their hand, the Mark 48 reached its destination. It didn't hit the boat's hull, that's too messy. Instead, it swam directly under the boat. A magnetic fuse detected the metal above and detonated. The explosion created a massive gas bubble that lifted the entire vessel out of the water before it collapsed. That vacuum snapped the boat's spine like a dry twig. In 6 seconds, it was gone. Just a patch of oil and some floating debris. But just as the crew is about to exhale, the sonar room goes cold. There's a low guttural rumble vibrating through the Florida's hull. It's not a boat, it's coming from the seafloor. An Iranian Ghadir-class midget sub, tiny enough to hide in the jagged rocks of the Gulf, has just powered up its engines. It's been sitting there in total silence, waiting for the Americans to reveal themselves. Now it's sitting right in the Florida's only exit path. This isn't just a skirmish anymore. It's a Mexican standoff in a dark room. One wrong move, and a torpedo exchange in these waters could spark a full-blown world war. The Florida is huge, and the Ghadir is small and nimble. It's a knife fight in a phone booth. But this is where the years of training kick in. Instead of a direct confrontation, the captain of the Florida uses the ocean's own physics against the enemy. By dancing between thermal layers and using a perfectly timed acoustic countermeasure, the Florida creates a phantom signature that lures the Ghadir's sensors in the wrong direction. While the Iranian sub is chasing a ghost, the Florida slips through a narrow underwater canyon and vanishes. The strike was so surgical that the other Iranian boats nearby have no idea what even happened. Their radar shows nothing, and their visual lookouts only saw a sudden geyser of water where their friends used to be. By the time they could even report it, the USS Florida was already gone, melting back into the deep blue of the Indian Ocean. This is the new reality of global power. In an age where satellites can see a license plate from space and missiles can hit a window from 1,000 miles away, the underwater world is the last place left to truly be a ghost. The Iranian strike is a reminder to anyone who thinks they can control the seas with numbers. You can't fight what you can't see. You can have 1,000 boats and the best radar money can buy, but you can't defend against a predator that strikes from a dimension you can't even monitor. The U.S. submarine force remains the ultimate checkmate, keeping the world's vital waterways open through the quiet, terrifying promise of total dominance. In the high-stakes world of naval warfare, the most powerful voice in the room is the one that says nothing at all. Write your tactical analysis in the comments. We'll see you in the next deep dive. Stay sharp.